Café and Networking Podcast promotes successful business experts. I'm Tom Reaoch, known as the King of Networking, connecting people throughout the world from my podcast studio in Brazil. Today we talk with Dr. Tomi Mitchell. She's joining us from Calgary, Alberta in Canada. Dr. Tomi Mitchell is a wellness and performance coach, the go-to MD coach. She empowers executives, leaders, physicians, lawyers, and other professionals to reduce burnout and overwhelm so they can increase productivity. She's also a speaker and podcast host. So Dr. Tomi, what is burnout and why is it a critical issue?
Thank you for the question. So burnout is a state of emotional and physical exhaustion caused by the key is excessive and prolonged stress. Like we all experience stress, but burnout is like that stress that doesn't seem to end. And why is it important? Well, in order for our society to function well, from individuals to families, communities, and countries, we need to have healthy individuals. Mm-hmm. And right now, burnout levels are at astronomical levels, and it is impacting people more than they realize. So that is why it's important.
But I see, does it manifest itself differently for different professionals? Because we're talking here about executives, leaders, physicians, lawyers. Is it different for each one, or is it sort of all the same?
It's very similar, but in some of those high-performing, high-responsibility professionals where showing signs of weakness is greatly frowned upon, quote-unquote weakness, they often mask it, right? So, yes, the exhaustion is still there, but for myself who experienced burnout, as a physician, it's not a career that you can just easily walk away from or take a break because you have this ethical and moral obligation to your patients. But I mean, the basic symptoms and even the impacts of stress and cortisol in our body is the same regardless of your career, profession, or the situation you're in.
Well, obviously, we've passed the pandemic and we've seen that the exhaustion was mental and physical for several professions. But the exhaustion can come in different ways for different people.
Yes, it sure can. I think the part that's often forgotten about the burnout piece was a term called moral injury. And that in the healthcare reign, when many physicians, healthcare providers felt helpless to the situation. They felt that they were thrown into like the lion's den, so to speak. They felt like they were giving a boat, a canoe without a paddle.
Right.
And they saw how dispensable they were to their employees. And they saw patients suffer and like die who otherwise would have been saved. Mm-hmm. That does something to an individual, especially someone who truly cares about the profession, and they made an oath, right. First do no harm. So that's another piece that cannot be neglected. Like there's definitely challenges in the healthcare systems, but there are clear solutions. But the people who have the power and the funds and who are in control need to be able to prioritize individuals' health over profits. So
well, even business executives following that same line of thought.
Yes.
We may not have an oath, but if we do show our values and our mission statement and we want to do things correctly, that also dwells on a burnout. If you're really rowing your boat against fake and true news out there, that can be devastating the same way.
Definitely. And using the same content of the pandemic, since you mentioned it, business owners were burnt out. They were supposed to make bricks with no straw. They were supposed to pay their bills, pay their rent, pay their mortgage, but not have income and still pay their employees. Right. And still pay themselves. And to have all these restrictions that made it very challenging, to say the least, to survive. Plus, they were already stressed before. Because I am a physician and I'm also a business owner. At that time, I had 2 brick and mortar businesses, and I felt that part as well, trying to get staff to show up to work. But then they were like, well, the government says we don't need to be, you can work from home. But I'm like, your job can't really be done from home. So it was stressful. And I'm sure many business owners have their own unique stories, and many have talked to me as patients and fellow colleagues who were just like, this is nuts. Like, this is stressing them out more than they ever would have imagined.
Well, in your wellness, then, you adapt what you're offering specifically to the person. It's home. Let's say it's custom made.
100%. I don't believe in cookie cutter because we are not cookie cutter individuals.
So it's to the person, to the profession, and up to date.
100%. So I leverage my decade plus experience as a board certified physician with my coaching experience. So I'm able to understand the interplay of how different parts of our lives impact our health, both physically and mentally.
And to your podcast, you bring all of that to life in the podcast?
100%. So the mental health and wellness show in each season highlights a different topic, whether it's burnout, holistic health practices, whether it's money and finances. We talk about issues that maybe some people think are uncomfortable or taboo, but there's nothing that's taboo or off limits in the podcast. So yeah, that's what we do.
Well, sometimes success can be uncomfortable. We don't realize that we need to feel something, right?
Yes, that is so true. People often think, oh, I feel bad, I can't do it. No, success is uncomfortable because you're pushing yourself out of the limits. If you were not pushing yourself, then you'll just be average. Okay. So to go beyond average, you have to lead. And as you lead, people notice you because you are not in the pack. You are leading the pack. Right. So 100%.
Sometimes I've seen people who are successful, they even feel guilty about their success.
And that often stems back to early beliefs they had from childhood. Like, oh no, I have more than my father, my mother. How can I have all these things? And they have this sense of shame.
Right.
However, I don't have those feelings. I think success is my duty. And there's so much I can do to help in this world when you have the financial resources, the mental resources, the other resources to make a change.
So it's help yourself, but help others. But first you have to help yourself.
100%. Like they say, put the oxygen mask on first before you help the next person. But unfortunately, so many of us who've been burnt out put the mask on others, and then you wonder why you collapse. Well, go figure. That's why. But good intentions, but sometimes they don't always work out as planned.
Well, very good. Well, Dr. Tomi Mitchell, thanks for being here. How can our listeners find you?
For sure. So if you Google Dr. Tomi Mitchell, I'm all over social media. That is my social media handle for LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and also my business Holistic Wellness Strategies, the holistic with an H, wellness strategies, plural.com.
Very good. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
And again, for our listeners, it's Dr. Tomi Mitchell. That's Tomi, the last name Mitchell. Find her on LinkedIn and across all social media, and also holisticwellnessstrategies.com. Holistic, and I'm pronouncing the H because it's holisticwellnessstrategies.com. Café and Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information at focusmi.com. Talk to Tom, talk to the world. Thanks for listening. Until the next time here at Café and Networking Podcast.